And for the first time, there was a new school of thought that was chemically induced that made people question the very society they lived in. By 1960, the president of the United States was only 42 years old. Can you imagine? DMX is older than that. And he was going to usher in a new era of peace. He was going to avoid the Cold War. He was going to end segregation. And they blew his things out in front of everyone in Dallas. This country was never the same.
I seen this dude screaming, crying, saying, "You fuckers did it right now. I don't want to hear nothing from you self-righteous libs, Democrats. We're coming for you." Knowing damn well the person that did it, y'all know what it is. Betty White.
Right now, if you had them prepare themselves in whatever way they would have to prepare themselves to come to battle, and I bet what I have, everything I have, that meatloaf.
Listen close, because this one's messy. Charlie Kirk's fans are pointing the finger at Black and brown communities, blaming them just because people aren't crying over his death. And why would they?
Are there any good white people in the world?
There may be, but it doesn't matter. And you know why? No matter how good an individual white person may be, they have an obligation to look out for the best interests of the white race.
This is the same man who once said black folks were better off before civil rights, claiming crime was lower back then. Like that wasn't a straight-up slap in the face. And don't forget, his crowd mocked the deaths of Breonna Taylor, Tamir Rice, George Floyd, and so many more taken far too soon. Now, all of a sudden, they're outraged that folks aren't rushing to mourn him. The hypocrisy is screaming so loud it's impossible to ignore. Even celebrities are divided on this. Some tried to keep it polished, but others let it fly with zero filter. A few flat out said they feel no sympathy at all for Kirk.
Worth it? I think it's worth to have a cost of, unfortunately, some gun deaths every single year, so that we can have the Second Amendment to protect our other God-given rights. That is a prudent deal. It is rational.
50 Cent even dropped a post so wild, he had to delete it after the backlash. And get this, some of Kirk's own followers turned hostile, making threats on his life. Imagine that. His own base turning against him. But here's the real kicker. They stayed silent about the victims of the Colorado school shooting that happened just hours after Kirk was gunned down. Not 1 ounce of compassion. That silence speaks volumes. Amanda Seales didn't hold back either. She straight up said she feels no empathy for him, and she meant it. On the other side, Dr. Umar came in cautious, telling black folks not to celebrate Kirk's death, trying to keep the message tight. Two completely different tones colliding in real time. So what do these reactions really show? Is this just about shock value to grab headlines, or is it exposing something deeper, something raw and ugly about America's divides? Stay locked, because I'm breaking down every celeb reaction, the post that vanished from the internet, and why their words are shaking the whole conversation.
And women and children were killed in violent lynch mobs.
That's your explanation, but
racial terror permeated American culture for hundreds of years.
Black America is worse than it has been.
That affected
the first big voice to jump in? None other than 50 Cent, and you already know he wasn't about to drop some polished PR line or fake sympathy. In true 50 fashion, he went straight raw, posting a screenshot of the very moment Charlie Kirk was shot. His caption, "Want to know how I feel about this? I don't know, but I do know it's a good time to shut the F up now." That single line lit the internet on fire. Kirk's supporters completely lost their minds, calling 50 cold, heartless, and accusing him of celebrating death. Comment sections went wild, with fans screaming that his career was over and demanding he be canceled for good. Some even crossed dangerous lines, posting threats like, "Hope you're next."
I have watched any number of people of all kinds of stripes, people, theologians, politicians, people who consider themselves activists, all kinds of people on the conservative right talk about empathy, and they talked about empathy as if it was a pariah, empathy as if it was a moral failing, and they referred to empathy as a weakness. And it's interesting that they would call themselves Christian and be anti-empathy, because that is the a core tenet of Christianity. So that is being a Christian without the empathy is like being a sushi chef without the fish. But empathy is apparently a weakness to a lot of people. And you never know, but I've always believed and hold this now, that empathy is quintessentially human. Human. It is the core of humanity. It certainly is the core of Christianity, if you call yourself Christ-like. But how is it that you can despise empathy, that you think it is a weakness, that you think that people are susceptible to it, like it's the cold or the flu, and that you despise empathy, but would like it when someone who you love is hurt or killed? We can either decide to be human and empathic, whether we relate to, like, or understand a person or not. But in America, nothing is more American. Nothing is more quintessentially who we are than violence against people we disagree with, and then having a lack of empathy when we don't relate to them, when we don't like them, when they don't look like us. I don't know how you can be a Christian nation and call yourself a Christian nation and extol the virtues of Christianity, but only be empathic when they look like you. That's not Christianity. That's not humanity. That's tribalism.
Things turned ugly in seconds. The backlash must have been too heavy because just hours later, 50 quietly wiped the post like it never happened. But here's the twist. Plenty of folks didn't think he was wrong at all. People came to his defense, pointing out that Charlie Kirk made his name mocking black pain, pushing racist conspiracy theories, and clowning the deaths of black victims of police brutality. Their message was clear. Don't expect sympathy when you never gave it to us. One fan said, "I'm not feeling no sympathy for someone who would call me every slur in the book."
I can't have empathy for someone like Charlie Kirk. First of all, Charlie Kirk don't believe in empathy. He said it's a bad thing. He said it's some new age made up shit. He also said people gotta be sacrificed in order to protect guns. If he was saying that while fighting for reparations, I may have a little bit of empathy. But this white on white violence, he died? Damn, B. Life comes at you fast. I can't have empathy for someone like Charlie Kirk because I cannot be in his shoes. I have no frame of reference for that. I have no cognizance for that. There literally is nothing about his existence that I can relate to.
Another fired back with, "All this outrage is fake. When parents lose kids in school shootings, y'all stay silent." The comments were raw and unforgiving. Then DL Hughley jumped in, and trust, he wasn't about to bite his tongue. First, he reposted a TikTok dragging Kirk with his own words. The clip reminded everybody that Kirk once said, "It's worth having shooting victims here and there if it means keeping his guns." And no, that wasn't twisted out of context. He said it directly. That's exactly why the internet was boiling. But DL didn't stop there. He doubled down by posting a video of Speaker of the House Mike Johnson asking for prayers for Kirk and his family. DL wasn't having it. He called it straight up hypocrisy. His caption hit hard. Has Mike Johnson ever done this for victims of school shootings?
It shows they were actually better in the 1940s. It was bad, it was evil, but what happened? Something changed. They committed less crime.
Did Mike Johnson lower the flags for Congresswoman Hortman and her husband Mark after they were killed? Nope. The silence was deafening. But when word broke that Donald Trump ordered U.S. flags to fly at half-mast for Charlie Kirk, DL Hughley snapped all over again. He reminded folks this was the same Trump who once demanded flags honoring the Pope be raised back up. Yet here we are lowering them for Charlie Kirk. DL's frustration hit hard. He called out how flags still haven't been lowered for innocent kids taken in school shootings, or even for Congresswoman Hortman herself. Then he asked the question everyone else was whispering, is Kirk's death tragic? Sure, but does it really deserve that kind of national ceremony? You already know the answer. And DL wasn't done cooking. He dragged the hypocrisy wide open, pointing out that Kirk and his circle always trashed empathy, calling it weakness, even saying it was made up. Then DL hit the gas with a brutal video compilation titled Hate and Bigotry, Charlie Kirk's Real Legacy. And trust me, it was scathing. The montage rolled out Kirk's own words, clips of him denying George Floyd was murdered by police, mocking black pain, and even bragging that he wanted Derek Chauvin, the cop convicted in Floyd's killing, released from prison. That's the kind of content DL shoved right back into the spotlight, and the internet lit up with it. But then DL dropped a bombshell twist. He hinted the real story might be getting buried, that maybe Charlie Kirk was taken out by the very same forces he always defended. He wrote, "I just want to remind everyone that when someone shot Trump, they immediately screamed it was the radical left and liberal extremists, but it turned out to be someone from his own side." That line left jaws on the floor. His caption drove it even deeper. Remember, when you point a finger at someone, there are 3 fingers pointing back at you. DL wasn't celebrating Kirk's death. He was ripping apart the racial and political optics, exposing how America reacts completely different depending on who the violence hits. But of course, Charlie Kirk's diehard fans weren't letting it slide. They blasted DL Hughley online, accusing him of twisting the tragedy, deflecting blame, and even making excuses for the shooter. On the flip side, though, plenty of voices had DL's back, saying straight up that Kirk's supporters were just hunting for a reason to spark a race war. And they're mad because black folks aren't taking the bait, just keeping it moving. That same energy was all over the comment sections, but DL wasn't the only one catching fire. Amanda Seales got dragged into the storm too after she made it crystal clear she wasn't about to force empathy for Charlie Kirk. During a live Instagram chat that went viral, Amanda clapped back at people flooding her comments, demanding she show compassion. Her response, sharp and unapologetic, she reminded everyone that Charlie himself never believed in empathy to begin with. Amanda doubled down, saying she couldn't fake sympathy for someone whose life, beliefs, and choices were the total opposite of everything she stood for. She wasn't sugarcoating a thing. And you already know, Charlie's hardcore fanboys came for her with full force. The insults were flying left and right. Scum, idiot, sociopath, and plenty worse. It wasn't just white conservatives either. Scroll through X and you'll see black men joining in too, piling on the hate. The comment sections turned nasty in seconds. Meanwhile, some white users went completely overboard, saying Amanda should be denaturalized, deported, and even ranting about so-called black fatigue. The level of hate coming her way was off the charts, but here's the twist. Amanda wasn't standing alone. Plenty of supporters jumped in to defend her, dropping receipts of Charlie Kirk's long history of anti-black rhetoric. They argued Amanda wasn't celebrating his death at all. She was just refusing to fake tears for a man who built his entire career spreading division and harm. One fan nailed it perfectly, writing, "Nowhere in there did she celebrate his death. Nowhere in there did she preach hate." That comment hit different, and it showed exactly why Amanda's stance had so many people nodding in agreement. She never said she was cheering for his death. Amanda simply said she didn't have empathy for him. And the irony? Charlie Kirk himself once called empathy nothing but a new age word. He straight up dismissed it as useless. If that's the stance he took in life, why should anyone be forced to show it now? One fan broke it down perfectly. Is it sad he was killed? Yes. But does everyone have to care? No. They reminded people that Kirk spent years spreading hate and lies, so his passing doesn't magically turn him into a saint. Another fan added, "I won't celebrate his death, but I won't mourn either. That doesn't make me evil or hateful." That hit a nerve with thousands who are tired of being guilt-tripped into silence. Then came a powerful comment that went viral, flipping the whole narrative. Someone wrote, "She's too real." Now I get why the media is not on her side. The media hated Malcolm X too, until I actually listened to him. I had no idea what Amanda was really about. Salute to this woman from across the world. She's realer and braver than your fave rapper, and even your fave rapper's fave rapper. The praise for Amanda poured in heavy. But just when it seemed like the wave was all behind her, the story twisted. Dr. Umar Johnson stepped into the mix. Most people expected him to side with Amanda's no sympathy stance. Instead, he flipped it. Umar gave a whole lecture aimed directly at black folks, warning that all the memes, jokes, and laughs about Charlie Kirk's assassination were crossing the line. He dropped a long, serious statement on IG that split his followers in two. Umar wrote, "While I did not agree with Mr. Kirk's rhetoric and considered him an anti-black bigot, I will never rejoice at the loss of life of anyone who hasn't directly participated in the unliving of a member of the Black African race. I am ashamed to see members of my community celebrating this situation. And he didn't stop there. Umar hammered it home. I will never ask you to mourn the loss of an enemy of our race, but to celebrate an unliving is completely unacceptable. We know all too well that the greatest victims of political assassinations in this country have been our own people. His words shook the room, and not everyone agreed. Stop laughing at the misfortunes of others and get prepared. That's how Dr. Umar closed his statement. But then he dropped a bombshell. He claimed political assassinations are back in America, straight from the deep state. That line alone had people's heads spinning, but his followers weren't buying it. The comments turned into a battlefield, with many accusing him of acting holier than thou and trying to soften the blow. One person clapped back hard, writing, "I wonder if you would have written this if they shot you. Just a thought." Others doubled down, saying flat out, "Nobody's celebrating his death. We're just not mourning it." Another fan even snapped at Umar with 50 lashes for you, Dr. Umar. But then cooler voices chimed in, warning that kind of violent talk is toxic, and we shouldn't waste energy on trolls and chaos vampires who just want to stir the pot. Here's the ugly truth. Whoever pulled that trigger got exactly what they wanted. More division. The country's ripping at the seams, and every single reaction is proof of how easy violence gets weaponized. Celebs, politicians, and regular folks, they're all adding fuel, and the outrage is burning like gasoline on a fire. So the real question is, what do you think about the reactions from 50, Umar, Amanda, and the rest? Can America actually have a real conversation about the bigger picture, or are we already too fractured to even see who's pulling the strings? Drop your thoughts in the comments, smash that like button, subscribe, and share this with someone who needs to hear it, and I'll catch you in the next one.